Welcome to the Derek Creason Show, episode 4. As always, I like getting feedback from you, so you can email me at derek@derekcreason.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Derek Creason. And then as always, you can go to my website, derekcreason.com, and sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date with what's going on. All right, so this episode is long overdue. My last episode came out in December of 2018. That was 38 months ago, so it's been a while. So sometimes I put my creative projects on the shelf for a while, and so I decided to pull this one back out. So insert dad joke here. I'll try to be a little more consistent and put the content out more sooner, but we'll see how that goes. So this is going to be a special edition episode. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But we'll get back to all the normal segments like movie, TV reviews, music, army life, computer stuff, all that kind of fun stuff back in the next episode. All right, this special edition episode is dedicated to one of the biggest fans of my podcast. Their name is Isabel. So I just wanted to say, Isabel, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it, and I want you to know that you are awesome. So why is this a special edition of my podcast? Well, I wrote a book and I launched it 2 days ago on February 3rd. So that is the whole reason for this special edition. I'm going to talk about my cool new book that's out there. So it's a project I've been working on for quite a long time. But we're going to get into it and talk about it. So the name of the book is 20-something, Surviving the 10 Most Important Years of Your Life. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle format. You can get it in paperback. If you just go to Amazon.com and search for 20-something, there's actually a bunch of books named 20-something. But if you write the whole subtitle, Surviving the 10 Most Important Years of Your Life, it'll come up first. Or if you search my name on Amazon, it'll come up as an author and link to it. Or you can go to my website or any of my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And I've got links to it on all of those platforms and in all of my profiles on all of those platforms. So it's not hard to find. It's out there once you get on any of my media or content. So it's really easy to find. Go check it out on Amazon. I'd really encourage you to go pick up a copy and check it out. And we'll get into it more about the content, but it's really cool. It's only $7 for Kindle and $12 for paperback. So very reasonably priced and well worth it for the content that's in it, in my opinion. And so go check that out and go find it and take a look at it. And here in a minute, we'll get into it and start talking about it. So what is this book actually about? Well, just like the title sounds, Surviving the 10 Most Important Years of Your Life. I wrote it kind of at the perspective of 20-year-olds, stuff you go through in your 20s. Basically, my book offers advice based on my experiences, both good and bad, of all the things I've gone through. Kind of like, and trying to give some advice from the perspective of, hey, if I had known this at age 22 or 23 instead of figuring it out at age 28 or 29, 30 or even later, that might have been a little bit easier to deal with. So some of the stuff that I talk about, and I'll go over the chapters here in a second, like how do you deal with the ups and downs of college? What kind of career do you want? How do you know if you should marry the person you're dating or not? What kind of faith or morals should you have in your 20s? Should you be investing? Should you have a budget? What money stuff do you need to know? What about joining the military? Should I do that or not? How do I deal with negative emotions or when my friends die? Should I already have my career and life goals figured out? Like, what kind of, mindset or work ethics do I need to work through those and be successful? How do I figure all of these kind of things out? These are all very common things that every young adult's going to go through, whether they're in their 20s or maybe they're late bloomers in their 30s or 40s, everyone's going to deal with all these kinds of things. The book is an easy read. It's only about 38,000 words or so it's about 120 pages. In paperback, you can probably knock it out in about 3 or 4 hours. It's not too long. It's pretty laid back and easygoing, kind of like me. It's got 10 chapters, and they cover kind of everything I've been talking about, but there's a chapter on college where I kind of talk about my lessons I learned in college and some shenanigans I got into there. There's a really short chapter on dating and marriage, because I have some expert pro tips in that, which are mostly like don't do what I did to mess these things up. So there's a chapter on jobs and careers. That's an area in my life I've actually done pretty well at in my career as an IT professional. There's a chapter in the military. I'm in the military, obviously, part-time in the National Guard. I'm actually recording this episode in the barracks right now on active duty. So I'm on a stint of active duty. So there's a chapter in there about military, because a lot of people have questions about that. There's a chapter in there about faith. Sometimes it's hard for people to talk about their faith, especially in today's age. A lot of things out there in the world are very derogatory or very negative about faith, or the opposite end of the spectrum. It's very much everything's okay, everything needs to be accepted, don't judge me. There's some good stuff in there. There's a chapter on emotions. I think that's a big part of junior high, high school, college, and your young adult life is learning how to deal with emotions, both positive and negative. So there's a lot of good info on there. There's a chapter on health. How do I be healthy and stay fit? Most of us in our 20s, that's kind of when you lose that metabolism. You stop being as active as you were maybe when you were younger. Maybe you put on some weight. Maybe you have to learn how to eat better. Maybe you gain some weight. Maybe you lose some weight. So I've done a lot of my fitness journey personally in my mid-30s. But what I've learned, it's try to put in there what I've learned so people can take it with a grain of salt and see maybe it'll help them out. There's a chapter on money. I talk a lot about money. That's another big area where I've been blessed to be do a good job of figuring out money. That's one of the big ones where I wish I had learned it, at 22 or 19 instead of learning it at 29 or 30, about investing and stuff. So I've got a lot of good info on there about paying off your debts and investing and how to be successful in your career and earn more money, because it just makes things easier. And then the last two chapters are on life goals. How do you set goals and work for them, and then how do you deal with setbacks when you don't meet them? And then the last chapter is on mindset. Your mindset and attitude is a big part of all these different categories of stuff that you're going to deal with. So I got some good info on that. So that covers the 10 chapters of the book. And I don't talk about that, but here in a minute, we'll talk about the backstory, like, hey, why did you even want to do all this and stuff and write this book? So we'll talk about that next. So why would I want to write a book? I think anyone who knows me knows that I like to be creative. I like to do a lot of movies, music, podcasts, just anything I can do to kind of be creative, whether that's digital media or music. I've blogged off and on for years, and that's kind of an outdated term now to say blog, but whatever you want to call it, write articles on my website. I've written some tech articles on other websites. I just like the idea of writing. So I got this idea when I was writing on a plane back in 2016. I was flying home. It just kind of hit me. I got an idea about this, and so I just kind of jotted down some chapter ideas in my email, and then this idea just kind of slowly grew from there. I'd work on it occasionally and try to hammer out a chapter or some ideas and write paragraphs. Unlike any bigger creative project, it's not something you knock out in a day or two. It's just something you work on when you think about it or when you're inspired. Sometimes you take big, long breaks. Sometimes I take breaks over a year, sometimes 8 months long. Sometimes I would just forget about it because I'm busy with life. I got a lot of kids and a lot of work going on with 2 jobs. So I really like being creative, but sometimes when you want to write, sometimes you need inspiration, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I just need to sit down and hammer out some work for a couple hours, and sometimes some of the chapters cover some hard emotional stuff for me, and so I was dreading writing about it, and like it's hard to be raw and real and try to be honest when you write, because I think that's an important part of anything you create, is to try to make it as real as possible so people can consume it, and take it good or bad if they like it or not. But usually people nowadays are pretty good at sniffing out fake fake crap or BS. If they know you're just making stuff up to try to make a buck, people can usually sniff that out pretty well. And if you're writing about some of these topics, it's challenging to be open and honest. It took me 3-4 years to write it. It took me a year and a half, 2 years to edit it. And you try to get quotes from professional editors and realize I'm not going to spend $800 to $1,200 on an editor. So you learn to do stuff with different levels of resources, especially for independent self-publishing, just starting out as a side project. That's kind of the backstory of it. But then there's the whole practical side of, hey, you're creative. I made something, whether it's I recorded a music album or I wrote a book or something. Do I want to publish this? Do I want to put it out there? Do I want to throw it away? Am I trying to make money off of it? Am I trying to inspire people? What will people think of it? What if they like it? What if they don't like it? Does anybody really care what I have to say? Are they going to judge me? There's a lot of that for creative people, musicians, artists, whatever you want to call it. Maybe not as much in some or others, but for me, definitely, it's a big fear to overcome. So it takes a long time to put that doubt and fear away, and you got to learn to realize that, hey, I'm a creative person. I like to do stuff like that. That's part of who I am. Sometimes I get really down if I haven't been creative and created something, whether it's written or musical or whatever, for months or years at a time, and be like, hey, something's off. Like, oh, I'm not doing, part of what I'm made to do. That's just who I am. I got to be creative. And then I have to learn, you can't base your self-worth or your sense of accomplishment on what others think of you, good or bad. Whether it's people saying, hey, this is cool, or my mom loving everything that I make, or people who hate me, or people who think, this is crap. There's better versions of this out there by somebody else. That doesn't matter. My self-worth isn't based on that, or my sense of accomplishment, and those are some lessons you have to learn along the way as well. There's always going to be fans, there'll always be critics of anything you create. So you just have to kind of take the good and the bad and just kind of move on. So all that being said, I'm going to continue to be creative and try to put my work out there as often as I can convince myself to do so. And that includes like this podcast or writing or music. Music album is another big goal of mine. This project took 5-6 years to do, so who knows? I've been toying with an album idea for over 10 years, so maybe someday I'll get to it and put it out there, but that's a challenge that I want to do to myself, So, and if other people like it or receive joy or learn something from it, then great, and if they don't like it, oh well, I'm just going to shrug it off and keep driving on, I'm just going to keep creating because that's part of me and who I am. So, all that being said, talking about the backstory and being creative, I'm super proud and super excited to put my book out there. It was a big, scary thing 2 days ago to hit that big publish button and make it live on the internet, and then to put, links and blogs out about it. But it's exciting. I've gotten some positive feedback so far from a lot of people, a lot of friends and family out there on the net, and I've actually already sold 10 copies of it, so it's chugging along in the first couple of days. So I'm super excited, super happy about that. Like I said, go pick it up. It's on Amazon, 20-something, Surviving the 10 Most Important Years of Your Life. You can find it Kindle, paperback. Go to Creason.com. There's links to it there. I've got a whole blog on my website there, kind of what this whole podcast is about, the why and the background and the what of my book. So trying to promote it, but it's out there. Go check it out, and I'm really excited and proud about it. And so I hope it can actually help some young kids, and that's been the whole goal. And if not, it was a fun, creative project regardless, and so I'm just happy to have done it. All right, so that is going to wrap up this episode, this special edition, episode 4 of the Derek Creason Show. It's been fun to talk about my brand new book, 20-something, surviving the 10 most important years of your life. Like I said, go out there and check it out. Next episode, I'll try to get to in the next week or two. We'll get back into all the normal type segments of my podcast. The short recent life updates section, usually at the beginning, will be a little longer, because I got to talk about what's been going on the last 38 months of my life, if this is the only way that you follow my life. But really, if you want to keep up with my life, I'd say follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Derek Creason. There you can find links to my wife's social media. She's much more active on posting photos and what's going on with our life and our kiddos and stuff. So yeah, check me out there, Twitter, Instagram, at Derek Creason. You can email me, Derek@DerekCreason.com, and also go to the website, DerekCreason.com, sign up for my newsletter, and then I don't send that out too much, so it's not too spammy, but anytime I update or write a new blog or something, I'll send it out, which is not that often. As always, you can get this podcast. I host it on Anchor.fm, but it's on, 13 different platforms now, so you can get it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Go to Anchor.fm/Derek Creason, and you can see the 13 different platforms that it's on. But if you just search for my name or my Derek Creason show on any of those, your major podcast platforms, it's out there. So go subscribe, check it out, listen to it. I'll try to put out content, hopefully more often than every 38 months. But we will see, because my life is busy, and I may not feel like being creative again for a while. But so that's what's going on for now. We'll close this out, and we will catch you all later. Bye, everyone. So we're going to say some more sentences out loud and test the background noise. There's so much stupid background noise because I'm in the freaking barracks.